Welcome to Business Over Beer, where entrepreneurs, small business owners, and people passionate about what they do bring us their stories and their favorite beer. Hosted by Ben Surratt, Jonathan Kaler, and Jason Knope, it's time to get down to business and drink some beer.
Welcome back, everybody, to the Business Over Beer podcast. I'm your co-host, Ben Surratt. We have Kaler and Knope, and we have somebody else, Knoper. Who do we have?
We've got the one and only Kim Harless. She is a candidate for Vancouver City Council, and she works with Washington Paint Care as a coordinator. How you doing today, Kim?
I'm doing great.
Well, thanks for staying with us. You took your break and you actually came back. So hopefully you had a good time in part one. For anybody who may have missed part one, which I can't believe anybody would have possibly missed part one, but just on the off chance that they did, why don't you once again just give us the 50,000-foot view of Kim Harless, your candidacy, and kind of what you're into?
Yeah. So running for Vancouver City Council, lived here most of my life. Vancouver grown, and I want to make this community a better place for everybody that is here. All demographics, rich, poor, whomever. That's my passion in life.
Outstanding. Well, in part one, we talked quite a bit about your candidacy and a little bit about your platform. We really kind of got a sense of who you are, where your values are, and what you're going to bring to City Council should you be elected. We're excited to get more into that. But before we get there, Ben, are you still thirsty?
I'm still thirsty, but I think there's somebody here who's more thirsty than I am.
Yeah, maybe I should have said, Knope, are you still thirsty?
Oh, I'm very thirsty.
I have never seen him grab for the Angies mystery beer faster.
That's a first, for sure.
I already had it out of Grandma's cooler, too. So,
So, Kim, every episode of the Business Over Beer podcast, my lovely wife, Angela, picks us out a mystery beer. We call this segment Angie's Mystery Beer. So here's how the game works. We have this bag. It's a can. So we're going to open it. Okay. We'll open it a little bit. We don't look inside. No cheating. No. All right. We'll take a little bit. So the top is kind of, you can see the top. Everybody at home. There you go. See that? Just like that. All right. So we're going to pop the top. You don't have a glass, do you? You're actually smart on this one because we're going to have a tough time pouring this over the bag into the glass. You take a little sip.
Hey, remember Keith Sconiers taught us the trick. Once you get it to this point, then you twist.
That's what it was.
You twist. That's the key. You twist.
Pop it open, take a sip, and we guys try to guess what it is. It's the game we play.
Yeah, it's no big whoop.
All right, you ready?
It's really dark.
I was gonna say it's awfully shadowy in there.
when I opened it, some of it got on my hand. I was like, oh, no.
That's all I'm going to have. Oh boy!
I could chug this water and then I'd have a glass.
You don't have, no, it's okay. But you can. Oof.
It doesn't smell heavy though.
You're right, Knope. It doesn't.
All right.
All right.
Prost.
Prost.
Taste the coffee.
Oh, that's yummy.
It is good.
Oh, that's good.
It's almost the season for something like this.
It is. You're right, Kim.
Yeah. It's like the only time I can drink something dark. It's in the middle of winter.
Yeah.
That's Angie's. My wife's favorite beer is the dark beers and the barrel-aged dark beers.
I mean, it would go great with like a big bowl of chili. or like a plate of beef
Ooh.
stroganoff or something, right?
At the fireplace is going.
Yeah.
Has to be at a campfire. Mhm.
And a campfire. There you go.
Ben, this might be good to marinate some brats in.
Mm.
Oh, dude, don't get me. Oh,
Yeah, with some onions.
always with the food with you, Canope.
Always
with the food.
always with the food.
What I like about it is
The
it
vanilla?
has, yeah, it's got a nice sweet component. And on my palate, what it does is like the heaviness and the sweetness kind of drops and the bitterness lingers up front. It lingers on the tongue, which I really like, while it kind of everything else sort of kind of fades down. It's really interesting. That's yummy.
Those of you listening who can't see, Kim did drink the rest of her water and poured it into her glass. Good job, Kim.
Thank you.
What do you think of it?
Stay hydrated.
Vote Kim Harless for city council. She drinks beer out of a glass.
What do you think of it, Kim? Did you like it?
I don't normally go to a dark beer,
Hmm.
but it's almost the right season, like I told you.
Okay.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah. I'm usually an easy drinker, maybe an IPA, especially a hazy. But during the coldest months, something like this would be like really warm the soul kind
Yeah.
of thing. But it's not like super dense though, so I like that about it.
Yeah, it's not heavy.
It's not like thick.
It's not. I'm kind of scared. I'm wondering if it's hidden, because typically her choices are
Usually what?
they're usually a bit high octane, as we like to say. So we'll see.
Oops.
All right.
Canoper, what do you think?
I really like it actually. It's easy to drink. I'm gonna throw a couple out there. I think maybe like a German Schwarzbier or a alt beer.
I don't think it's an alt beer. I don't think the colors. I don't think the colors right.
And the
Yeah, I taste the
coffee is-
coffee too, but
I think it's an ale. I think it's a stout or a porter. Might be a porter.
Mm.
I think it's a stout because it's not. I don't think it's sweet enough to be a porter.
Right.
I think
What
the
are the big-
bitterness. Go ahead. What did you say?
What are the big differences between a stout and a porter?
I mean, stout and porters are, in my opinion, and anyone can argue my point here, but I think they're essentially interchangeable. But we had Annie Hieronymus and Eric Hieronymus. Eric Hieronymus? Is that right?
Yeah, Eric.
Annie Hieronymus and Eric Hieronymus on the show, and they brew beer at home.
Hmm.
And we asked this very question, and they said porters are typically going to be like sweeter, so like the
Mhm.
chocolates, the more of those sweet overtones or undertones, versus a stout, which is going to be more of like the coffee or those bitter undertones. So for
Nice.
me, the bitterness is outweighing the sweet. So I think it's a stout.
Mhm.
I think it's. I mean, I don't think it's a double. It doesn't drink like
No.
a double.
It's too.
My face is a little warm though, so maybe maybe it's a double. There may be a little hidden octane in there. I don't know, but it's really smooth. It's really well balanced. I think it's probably a coffee stout. That's my guess.
Yeah.
Coffee stout, probably in the 6.5 ABV range. That's my guess.
There's a hint of caramel or of vanilla, in my opinion. I think.
There is something sweet in there.
Yeah.
I mean, I really like it. I mean, it could even be like an oatmeal stout.
Hmm.
I don't think it is. I don't think it's got enough body to be an oatmeal stout. It doesn't have enough mouthfeel to be an oatmeal stout. But
All right, Kim.
all right, big reveal time.
Big reveal. Let's find out what it is.
So like open it.
Yep.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
Okay. Ooh, it's pretty so far. It's sparkly.
She likes the artwork. That's a good sign.
That's a good sign.
It is. Oh, there you go. It is a
Stout.
lights out stout.
There you go. Boom.
It says, "Look up, ode to the starry, starry nights."
From Worthy.
Worthy out of Bend, the lights out stout, 7.7. So it's not a double, but it's
it's up there.
It's up there.
It's not exactly low octane.
Dude, I think Kayla, you got that one 100%, bro.
No, bro, look at you. Hints of vanilla, coffee, and nutty flavors with a smooth, creamy finish. Style, stout.
Stout. You got it, though. You said stout.
Well, but you got the vanilla, so well done.
Good job.
I mean, overall, we were all around it. Clearly, though, it is not lights out Schwarzbier or lights out alt beer.
Yeah, no.
Way off. Way off. Not anywhere close.
I threw it out there just because I've had some that tasted similar to this in Germany. So,
well, better luck next time, Canope.
yeah, no, it's all right.
But hey, but all of our contestants get a copy of the home game. So,
so Kim, before we get into your day job, is it weird to see your face on other people's like front lawns and in the middle of the street? Is that weird?
Not really. I thought maybe it would be, but you just get used to it. At first, people that had been running campaigns for a long time in this area told me not to put a photo on it. So of course we did the opposite. Because this campaign is all pretty much everybody that works for or volunteers for the campaign. This is their first time. So my graphics designer has never done political stuff before. The person that designed my logo and the yard sign had never done political stuff before. My coordinator, she's never done political stuff before. So we just come from a lot of different perspectives, and we're like, we're going to make a sign. This is what we think is the best thing, and we're not going to let the past influence us. But being a public official for so long, I think I've just become like comfortable with it. It's your face. It looks different than what you see in the mirror because it's not the right, it's not inverted the right way. But hey, at least it's a nice photo.
So how do you get your volunteers? Do they come to you, or do you recruit them? How does that work?
Yeah, both. So some of them are just friends. Some of them literally walked by one of my signs and looked me up and was like, this is a candidate I want to support. So kind of a mixture of both.
That's awesome. And you're not affiliated with any party, right? You're just you.
Mm-hmm.
Was that an easy decision or tough decision?
Yeah, so fortunately, Vancouver City Council is a nonpartisan position. I would have a lot of difficulty running for anything that was partisan because I just do not adhere to. I'm here to be the voice of the people. I'm not here to do what's in the best interest of a political party. And you see so much that it's become more like a sports game. It's like who's winning, who's losing. We talked about that, in the first episode a little bit. But it would be difficult. And, I am more than happy to talk to both parties, be part of both parties. The Democratic Party has more, they are recommending me. A lot of volunteers are coming from the Democratic Party, but that I have not been, folks from the local Republican Party haven't really reached out to me. I do have a lot of friends that, are more politically involved in the conservative Republican era. My cousin, is as well. So sometimes we have conversations. But at the end of the day, like everyone's just trying to do what's in the best interest. And so I don't think of myself as a Democrat because I don't assign myself to pledging to a platform or a certain ideology. But I do see Democrats as allies because a lot of them are coming out in support of my campaign and what it stands for.
Do you think if you continue with this and that you get more and more in politics, are you going to have to choose a side? Is that inevitable?
A lot of positions are partisan. So county council currently is, unless people, vote to make it nonpartisan with one of the amendments that my charter review commission is proposing on the ballot in November. And you don't have to. That's always an option not to. But because of the way politics are right now, unfortunately, you kind of do a disservice to yourself when you don't. If it is a partisan race. However, there are a lot of people that have been successful recently. And I think there's an opportunity there because there's a lot of, especially the newer generation, the Gen Zs, they really hate political parties. And so as more and more Gen Z become age 18 and are able to vote, I see that there'll be more opportunity for a different political system. But for me, city councils, I never even wanted to be where I am even right now. So there's no, and that's one part of my platform too, that I tell people is like, this is not, a lot of people use city council as a stepping stone towards another thing because they have a political career instead of just trying to be a good representative and trying to do what's in the best interest of the people. Not that they can't do both, but, and so I really try to tell people that I'm running for city council because I want to run for city council. It's not because I want to do something else, in 4 years when the position expires, So I don't really see myself right now doing anything beyond city council. Right now I'm focusing on here and what we need to do here right now.
Love it.
There's a lot to do. One of the things that really stood out to me as I was kind of reviewing, your background and who you are and your campaign, the word that pops up time and time again throughout your website is the word resiliency. And I'm curious, kind of where does that come from? Why is resiliency such an important characteristic, or why is that important for you to make sure everybody knows that you have this resiliency and that the Kim Harless campaign is focused on resiliency for this position?
Yeah, and resiliency is, becoming kind of a buzzword, but it represents to me like the struggle of constantly hitting into barriers, but still being able to move on, and still continue on and not be destroyed by, somebody trying to pull you down or however it is, and still finding a way to reach your goals, and having a lot of acceptance that maybe it's not happening the way that you wanted it to. So being resilient in your mind, being resilient in so many different ways, whether it's financial, your education, whatever it might be, to me, it represents just the continuation of moving on and being able to thrive whenever you can. And so when I look at what builds resiliency in a community, that means that when people hit hard times, they're not hitting that hard time and then getting thrown way, way, way back to where it's going to take them a lot of work to get to where they were, but rather, they get pushed back and they can move forward still. And being resilient with hard things that happen, that we should have a lot of social structures to be able to help people out in that way, because we don't thrive as an entire community if people are constantly having to pick themselves back up. All of us hurt from that, because that's people that can't get their, a stable job or education or you name it, whatever it is. We all suffer when people can't thrive and are just focused on surviving. And so resiliency also to me means, because I have some friends in disaster response management. And so one of the things they focus on is resiliency and making sure that when a disaster happens, that we have a resilient community. And one of the biggest parts that shows whether a community is resilient is that it actually has community, that your neighbors, that if something were to happen in your neighborhood, where who has what resource in order to be able to share. And I know that's something what a lot of emergency managers are working on, is building neighborhoods to have neighborhood leaders and resources and those shared resources. If neighbor Jill has a generator and neighbor John has some equipment that could be used to move debris, that way not everybody has to have each of these things, but we can all work as a community when a disaster strikes. And so I think of that in different ways too, whether that's helping with childcare or helping with anything that would be beneficial to folks in the community. We don't all need to be on a struggle when we can work together and help each other out, and fill the gaps for one another. And so resiliency means a lot of things to me, in short, but it is a hard one because a lot of people will say to folks that have had a lot of lived experiences, oh, you're so resilient, and it's like, yeah, but I'm tired, I'm tired of being resilient. I want to just relax. I'm tired of constantly feeling one step back and then having to move forward, over and over and over again. It gets really tiring. So yes, it's great to be resilient and to be strong, but you still need, if you're working hard, you still have rest days. You should have rest days. If you have a big strenuous workout plan, you build in rest days. Well, when you're constantly having to be resilient, you don't really get a break. So a lot of people will say that who get labeled as resilient will tell you that they're tired.
That's interesting.
Yeah, and I think that the word that kind of came to my mind there was empathy. And then if I get rest days, how do I be more empathetic to those who are having to be resilient, who are out there having to fight the fight that I don't have to fight. But ultimately, we all have our own struggles. We all have our own fights. And I think if we're sensitive to that, that makes the community stronger. But I love the idea of knowing where the resources are and these shared resources so that everybody doesn't necessarily have to take the full burden. Which my dad is probably turning in his grave with me saying that, because what came to my mind was, what was that old Hillary Clinton quote from back in, like when it takes a village. That's right. It takes a village. And when I think about how my own views have evolved over the years, I think that's probably what's at the heart of that sentiment. Right, that's why it takes a village, right? Why do every single individual or every single family have to take on all of the burdens? We don't. Let's share the burdens amongst each other, and that's how you build true community.
Yeah, amen, bro. Yep.
So the other one of the other things that I noticed that is an important kind of a running important issue for you is food equity. Talk a little bit about that. I don't hear a lot of people bringing that issue to the forefront. So I'd love for you to talk a little bit about, where does that come from for you, and maybe explain to our listeners a little bit about kind of what that means and what that looks like and why it's such an issue.
Yeah, absolutely. So my background when it comes to food equity and sovereignty is that, I had my son at a very young age, and he got to the age where he could start eating whole foods. And I was like, what do I feed my child? And I was a very protective mom, because he, in his first few days, was in NICU, and, was born blue and all those things. So I was very protective over his health. Still am today. It drives him crazy. And so I had started researching about food and like what was the best healthiest thing to give him, and doing a lot of that. And I was, taking science classes, so I felt like pretty competent finding good resources. And I started learning about the food system and how corrupt it is, and how it's just a few companies that own a majority of the food system. And again, when you look at it from a disaster mindset or emergency management, it's really risky to have a food system that, the pieces are so, just a few, because if any of those pillars break, the whole thing collapses, kind of thing. And that eventually got me involved with local farmers, because again, if a disaster happened, who would feed you? Well, it would be your local farmers. Well, here in Clark County, we've lost a significant amount of farmland and agricultural land. And we're building townhouses on them and otherwise. And yes, we do need housing, absolutely. But we need to be smart with how we're growing that housing. And so I got involved with that a little bit. There was the comprehensive management plan at the county, and trying to protect agricultural land for those reasons. But then I went to college too at the same time, and I took agroecology classes, and it was talking about food with regard to the ecology and humans being part of that ecology, and how to design a system that works not only for the environment but for ourselves, so that we're getting healthy, nutritious food. We're not putting ourselves at risk, and everybody has access to what should be a basic human right. And so I'm a strong believer that food should be a basic human right. And we need to protect it in that way, because literally, like, one of my favorite quotes is about how there's nothing more intimate you can do with nature than to eat food, because nature then literally becomes your atoms, the molecules within your body. And so I really took that to heart. And, I feel like, and this gets a little bit more spiritual, I guess, but I feel like what you eat really truly does become who you are. And so if you're eating corruption, if you're eating cruelty, if you're, eating these things, not only are you perpetuating those systems, but you're also literally making that part of your human body, like who you are, literally. And so it's important to me that people have access to food and have it with dignity. I think food banks are great, but it is still a sort of charity model, right? Instead of giving people the tools and resources for them to be able to access what foods they need, because nobody knows better than the individuals themselves. And people make the decisions based off of everybody, we might not agree with their decisions, but everybody should have that freedom to be able to do those things the way that they know is in the best interest of themselves and their families. And hey, if I want to buy some ice cream, I don't care I shouldn't be, being judged or anything like that. We all should be able to have whatever foods that we want and enjoy, but also those foods shouldn't be consolidated in few companies that are producing them. And the havoc that has had on the environment is one of the most significant sources of pollution and climate change. And we need to fix this agricultural system without a doubt. The city doesn't have a whole lot of ways to do that. Again, that'd be more of a county level or state level. But I can help with certain policies that would help homegrown sort of projects happen. So like right now, there's a free fridge project that has been trying to put fridges throughout the city of Vancouver and Clark County that people can drop food off at these fridges. That is restaurant leftovers. Restaurants throw away a lot of food. And I know this because when I worked at a nonprofit called Slow Food, we would partner with a lot of restaurants, and the food waste was just disgusting how much was going perfectly good food in the trash. And so people can drop off leftover restaurant food, or if they just bought too much or whatever it might be, or some of their own homegrown backyard stuff, drop it off the fridge and other people can access it and have it for free. However, this group has run into a lot of policy barriers. So there are rules in place that you can't have any structure within a certain feet of between the front of your house and the sidewalk. So when people are trying to do these very, great mutual aid projects, we shouldn't have policies that are preventing these things from happening, from building community resiliency. So I hope to be able to help in those ways as a city councilwoman for Vancouver, is so that we're not creating systems or barriers unnecessarily for people trying to do the good work in our community.
Kim, that's where my libertarian part comes out. When I hear you say that, I was on mute and I'm like, oof. Stop telling people how to regulate what they eat. Stop. You're doing more harm than good. Just stop. My goodness. The government. Okay.
Also, stop telling people that they can't plant vegetables.
Yes, stop telling them they can't plant vegetables.
Why can't someone plant a bunch of zucchini and hand them out to their neighbors in their front yard? Why is that an eyesore? That's food. Drives me crazy.
It's big corporations, bro.
Yep. It's about control.
It's control.
All the housing development drives me crazy. When I see all of this, we have some of the most fertile land in the country, in the world, maybe, in our area, and it's all being paved over with houses. And drives me crazy.
Because it's not smart planning.
No.
You know, smart planning would protect your fertile land, and you would only build predominantly, you would build up, not out.
Flats, like they do elsewhere in other countries.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Is that is this the balance between because we talked in part one about the urbanization of Vancouver. Is this kind of what you're talking about? So I wanted to ask a clarifying question because I wrote that the balance of urbanization, because the urbanization is good, right? That's promoting growth, it's promoting commerce, but now we're talking about losing some of this rural feel and the farmland. So how do you make that balance? Is that kind of what you're getting at with some of this conversation?
Yeah, so we have ignored, we've assumed that we were always going to be rural and suburban in every section of the city and county. Well, that's not true. We have urban cores that we need to continue to grow those up so that we don't infringe on the areas of lands that we should be protecting. We need a smart way to do that because it also hurts our transportation system. If we're so sprawled out like we are here in Vancouver, it hurts people having different ways to get around. So we are in a housing crisis and we need to grow up, right? And not just grow up mentally, but we need to grow up physically as well.
I see what you did there.
See that play on words? Sorry, I got it.
And so with that comes a lot of folks that don't either have access to transportation options or they just have a different way of getting around, right? Because as you increase your diversity, you increase the amount of individuals that get around differently, different modes of transportation or mobility. And we need to plan for that, that growth and diversity. So urbanization to me means an increase in density and an increase in diversity. And I don't mean just racial diversity. I mean, everybody's different lived experiences and diversity, all of the spectrums that are out there.
Love that.
Yeah.
Because what you're doing is what you're talking about is like essentially a community built around individuality at the end of the day. Be you, but whatever you're doing, help your neighbor, help your block, help your community. And if you're not regulated, if you're not told you can't do this or you get fined, if you're not nitpicking and getting money from the government for doing this wrong and doing that wrong, we have time, we have the means to do that. But we have to get the money out of it. We have to get the big corporations out of it. Sister, I love what you are. Go on, girl. Keep going. Keep going.
I think people will inevitably help people. I mean, my grandpa used to always say, I had to know a little bit of this language and a little bit of this language and a little bit of this language growing up in North Dakota area, because I didn't know if maybe I might be at someone's house and I might need to be able to speak some Swedish to be able to get them to pass me the food. And so
back to food. I told you.
Back to food. Always back to food. Thank you, Grandpa. Anyway, people always come back to helping people, and there's always seems to be this hurdle in the way. Does the city of Vancouver have these hurdles in place that we should be considering removing in the idea of like community gardens and things like that, where people can help people without having to think that, well, what if I set out food on my sidewalk and someone takes it and gets ill, am I going to get in trouble for it? I mean, what are some of the things that are in place that are maybe keeping people from doing these types of things?
Yeah, I mean, I think, I wish I had that list so that I could start creating the policies that would prevent all those things. I only know whatever I am told. I only have my own experiences. So part of this campaign has been me trying to get as many experiences out there, learn about them as I can. But I will tell you that food is one of the things that is protected federally, that you can donate. It's called the Good Samaritan Law. You can donate to anyone, anywhere. And because of your good intentions, you will not be sued. And a lot of people still don't know this. It is there. Please donate. please, give your garden leftovers, your restaurant leftovers. You do not have to worry about that liability or risk because the Good Samaritan law is there for you. So please, please, please donate that food, especially to your neighbors and your friends, because that builds community. Nothing builds more community than, we're doing right now over beer. Beer is food. And food brings people together. It defines cultures, everything. Food's incredibly important. But I would love to know more. So if people, regardless how this election goes, one of the things that's really highlighted for me is how it has given me a lot of opportunities to get to know more people in our community and more organizations and groups that I otherwise would probably never knew existed. Places that I'm usually not comfortable in, or usually don't feel welcome to, but actually being invited to go to, because now, I could be in a position of power, so people then are interested, right? So yeah, I would like to know more. So if you ever find something out, you tell me.
Definitely.
Hey, Ben, I'm sure there's a Jackie Childs joke in there with the Good Samaritan law, but I'm going to let that go.
That's awesome.
That's a Seinfeld reference for all you folks out there.
Your face is my case.
So I want to talk really briefly in the time we have left. This is the last question I have. Is about, and I don't know if this is a good topic or not, but I find it interesting that you have to have a day job and be on the city council as a second job. I don't know that a lot of people understand that. So talk about how this is a question about your passion. This is a question about you as a person. Like, what is it that drives you with your family? You have a son, you have a day job, you have all these important things, and yet now you want to go out and take a second job that will not support your whole family to try to make this community better. So just talk to me about that passion. Like, why is that so important to you to do that and still have to keep this day job at the same time?
Yeah, that's a question a lot of people think about, is because there's that, we should pay people, especially at the local level, they're often unpaid or very low pay, with some exceptions. And, it's like, okay, well, if we gave them, a living full-time wage, then people would just want these positions to get money, right? That's one of the arguments. One of the other arguments is, it should only be part-time so that it'd be more accessible to people. There's a lot of different arguments for what it should look like, with a lot of pros and cons. But at the end of the day, we really need to evaluate what provides the most opportunities for people to do. I've always been an overachiever in life in general, with some gaps. And so I am always filling up my time whenever I can. And so, in order to run this campaign, I dropped some of my roles on some nonprofit boards, and able to do that. And, that's what I'll continue to do if elected. But it shouldn't, I didn't even know the city council was paid until well after I announced my candidacy. So I was like, wait, what? This is paid? Awesome. But it's a hard question. I don't know the answer to what's best. It'd be great if it was a full-time job, because then maybe you would see some differences. Because right now, a lot of folks that run for local elections are often retired. They have a stable income, their retirement, that allows them the opportunity to then do these things. So yes, that's great if someone can do it full-time, but it also then, since it is an elected position, it's not reliable. So would you, especially if you're first generation person like myself who doesn't have a safety net if I, lose my job, I have no family that would be able to support me, that I couldn't rely on something that unpredictable. Like, okay, cool, I got elected, I have a full-time job now as a city official, but I don't know what that's going to look like when my term's over. That doesn't guarantee me income then, especially for people, again, like myself. So it's a hard question to know what's in the best, but I'm grateful it's getting paid because that will be very helpful for me. I definitely need, single mom, first generation. I am grateful that it will be paid a little bit.
Well, but I mean, all the things that we've talked about here today with the needs of this community, this growing city, I just have to question that, if we were really focused on all of these issues on a full-time basis, would we be able to find better answers and be able to put the full weight of this community behind everything that we talked about today, from the climate change to the urbanization to the housing, all the way to the voting, right? All of these issues are also interrelated. And if we had the full weight of the council and the full weight of our elected officials behind these issues, would we be able to make progress faster? I don't know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think I might be biased because I was a government employee for almost a decade, but I strongly believe that there's a lot of really good people that work in public service because they're not well-paid jobs. You do get a retirement usually, which is very nice, but you go through a very toxic work environment. And if we could empower those workers more to be able to do what they want, they know is in the best interest because they are the technical experts, that would be a lot better.
Yeah.
But it's about having a good work environment and not the political toxicity that runs into. So then the only people that are working are people are there for the stability of the income, or people that are there because they have nowhere else to go to work. And so we're not getting our best talent that are, when those are, it's only the people that really have a good heart or have no other choice that are working in our county government or city government or whatever. So I think elected officials have a responsibility to ensure that political toxicity does not bleed down and squash, new ideas or new approaches or the work that these folks can do. So, and that would relieve a lot of stress off of elected officials who come and go, right?
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, that's a good point. Awesome. Well, Kim, we wish you the best of luck in this election. We hope that you will give us an update and come back. We didn't get into everything probably that we wanted to, but we are super appreciative of you coming on. We're going to leave it there for now. But before we go, Ben, it's time.
It's time already?
It's time already.
Kim, it's time for the final question. Are you ready?
About as ready as I can be.
All right. Okay, good. So you have the whole world to pick for building the very first all ferret tunnel system. Okay? Where is that tunnel system going to be? And how many ferrets are you going to bring with you?
Well, keeping the ferrets in mind, it would need to be a temperate environment because that's where they come from, with access to rivers and streams and forested areas. I grew up with ferrets, and so ferrets are just, I love them. And I've always dreamed of having a landscape where there's different tunnel systems going through. You're sitting outside having your beer, and then there's a ferret going through a tunnel right behind you. And there's people that do this. It's amazing. And
yeah, we're talking to one.
Yeah, not yet. It is a dream that will. But yeah, anywhere in the temperate climate would be great. So we could do it.
You got to pick a place. No, you got to pick a place. What place?
Well, can I just Hoover? It could be our next big tourist attraction.
Okay. Say that one more time.
Yeah, you're breaking up. You're breaking up.
It could be what?
Our next tourist attraction.
Oh, there you go.
So Vancouver, Washington, no longer the prune capital of the world, but the ferret tunnel system capital of the world.
Yep.
Book it,
Love
Dano.
Boom.
Awesome. Well, Kim, we wish you the best of luck. If people want to find out more about you and your campaign and Paint Care, where would you like people to go?
Yeah, so for my campaign, that would be www.votekimharless.com, or for Paint Care. So if business needs to get paint, please do paintcare.org. So that's paint, CARE.org. And you can find all the ways that you can get rid of your waste paint for free. We might even be able to come directly to you and to your business and pick that up for free from you.
Outstanding. And as always, everything that we talked about in both episodes, as well as Kim's contact information, will be in the show notes and the blog post for this episode. Please go check those out now.
Hey, Canope.
Yeah.
If people want to find Business Over Beer, where do they go?
Well, they go to bizoverbeer.com, bizoverbeer.com. We got all our social media handles there. We got the podcast you can listen to, you can watch, everything you can think of and want from Business Over Beer, bizoverbeer.com.
Boom. This has been awesome. Kim, thank you so much. Canope, Kaler, people listening, thank you. Patreons, thank you. Members, thank you. People watching, I'm sorry. But we will see you all next time.
Good night.
Business Over Beer reminds you to always drink responsibly. Our theme song is Idiocracy by Christian Leo. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time on Business Over Beer, a TH3 Entertainment production.